What's good, everybody? Mr. J here, and as you very well can tell, today is gonna be maintenance day. First on the docket is to clean that rim off. See, you got the 2 buckets back there, so it's wash day. But first things first, I gotta clean that rim, make sure that oxidization doesn't set in on the rim and ruin the rim. So I'm gonna have to clean that off. A little speculative that I might have to use something a little bit more aggressive than the normal tire cleaner on that one, so I might have to bust out some iron remover. But you know, just an FYI, that's what happens when you ignore your brakes for too long. So, and really right now, it's the middle of winter, shouldn't be ignoring brakes at all whatsoever, just because you know how the weather's going to be going. But I'm gonna clean off that rim, and then I'm gonna get inside the studio. We're gonna order up some new brake pads, brake rotors, the works, everything, and I'm gonna take you guys every step of the way for the full install. Let's get it. Go ahead and make fun in the comment section, but this package is heavy. It's heavy, but we got it right here. Got the rotors, pads, clips, the works. Let's take a look, see what we got. All right, so this is gonna be the brake hardware. This is what's gonna be holding the pads inside of the calipers. We got them from front and back. And then right here, we've got the ceramic series from R1 Concepts. Brake pads, and for the rotors, I guess we got this mooring box for rotors, but these are drilled and slotted, and I got them in black. All right, to do today's install, these are the tools that we will be needing. We are going to be needing jack stands because we're going to lift up the car. We need to secure the car. Obviously, to lift up the car, we need our jack. Need to have wheel chocks whenever you're using jack stands, and your jack headphones are optional. Got a torque wrench here to make sure that when we reapply the lug nuts that we're torquing them to the proper torque. Breaker bar is going to be very useful. Need to get that torque to get some of these nuts off and out of place to the install. Got some accessories here for the impact wrench. Impact wrench is optional as well, but it will be a huge assist to completing the job. Got some sockets here. This is going to be very important if you have custom rims like me. Need to have your key. Need to have your key for your lug nuts. Otherwise, your life will be difficult. This is a spreader. This is going to spread the piston so that we can put the new brake pads in. And this bottle right here is to bleed the brakes. Also, we've got a mallet, we've got some thread lock, and some anti-seize right here. I'll go more into detail as we start doing the job on what each and every single one of these are for. See that? See that? See, if my car was this big, I probably have no problem working on it in my garage. But as you can see, Gotham Hemis, it's almost half as big as that car right there. So it don't fit. But you want to make sure that you have enough room to get the job done. my garage is a stacked garage, so with the car inside I barely have enough room to open one door. I gotta let everybody out before I get into the garage, just to, you know, make sure that they can get out. So want to do it in an area that you have enough room. That's why I pulled outside. We're gonna give it a chance. Hopefully it don't rain, and if it does, hopefully I can get it done before it starts. Let's get it. Important thing is to make sure that you chalk your wheels whenever you elevate your car. All right, everybody, so it is the next day. Ran out of daylight yesterday. Complications arose, ensued, and were overcome. So got one rotor done on the driver's side. Now we're on the passenger side. For context, I already have the car jacked up, and then so that I could get the jacks underneath, I actually already have the lug nuts on this tire loosened up. So we're gonna get this tire off, and then we're gonna get them rotors off. Alright, get the tire out of the way. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get inside and turn the wheel so that the caliper is facing this way, and I have the best possible angle to be getting these bolts off in the back. As we look at the caliper, there are two sets of nuts to know about, bolts to know about. You've got this, which is a guide bolt, and you got right back here this right there. That is the caliper bolt. This bolt holds the caliper on to the strut. This bolt right here holds the caliper half in place. So you've got two sets. You've got one up here, and then you've got some on the bottom here, right here, and then right there. So these screws, taking these screws out on the top right here, these aren't so bad. The ones that you really need a torque wrench for are the ones that are back here. These ones are going to be torqued on very tight. It's going to take a lot of elbow grease to get those loose. All right, so on some vehicles, you'll be fortunate enough to be able to loosen one of these bracket bolts on the top. See how the brake line comes right down here and connects to this one. If you unloosen this one, you typically would be able to fold this one back. But Chrysler was nice enough to have mounted this brake line on the back there, so we don't have a whole lot of play with this brake line at all. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to undo the top and the bottom one to get the calipers off. As you start to get this one off, notice it's spinning right here. It's spinning. You got a nut right there, so you need to get some pliers or whatever to hold as you're loosening it. Otherwise, you're just going to be spinning for days. When you get to the point where you can start hand loosening it, it's about to come out, but I don't take it out at this point right away. So we still have to get this one off. At this point, we're going to lift the top of the caliper off, and it's going to be free. We don't want to have any damage done to the brake line there. So what I've got here is zip ties. I'm going to string together some zip ties. And hang them from the upper control arm. On the upper control arm, there's two convenient little holes there. I can just loop this around, and when I pull this off, I'm going to hang it from the zip ties. That way I'm not hanging it from the brake line. Don't want to cause any damage to that. If you have a bungee cord, you can use a bungee cord, you can use a hanger, any variation. Zip ties is just what I have on hand, so that's what I'm using today. All right, so I'm gonna lift this caliper off. It's gonna pull straight this way, and then I'm gonna use where that bolt came out to feed my zip ties through. You can see how nasty those brake pads are. This is the side where most of the grinding is coming from, and the vibrations. This side's really bad. But just like that, caliper's hanging, no stress on the brake line. And now we have access to the brake pads. Oh yeah. That pad is completely gone, which is interesting because on the other side there was about 1/4 inch of pad left. So this is definitely where all the squealing's coming from. You should not see that silver through. That pad is completely gone. Same thing, pad's completely gone. Okay, so right here, this is your pistons. These two are your pistons right now, and as you can see right now, they're fully extended. We're not going to be able to get the new brake pads in there until these are pushed down straight, flush with the side of the caliper there. All right, so we're going to insert the old brake pad right up against the pistons, and then we're going to take the spreader tool, slide it in, and start to close it. Pistons closed. I was able to get them fully closed. It's time to cut this free. And place it back onto the caliper. Take those nuts, bolts, hand screw them back in. I'm only going to hand tighten them. I'm not going to fully tighten them down because we don't need to at this point. We just need them to stay in place. All right, and now for the fun part. Let's break the calipers off. All right, and it's going to be a 21 millimeter to get these bolts off in the back. it definitely gets harder before it gets easier. Hardest part is obviously getting that first brake to go through, and then through the first quarter of the nut seems to be, the first quarter of the bolt seems to be okay, and then from the halfway to the 3/4 mark, the struggle gets real. Fatigue starts to set in. So like I said, if you have a ratcheting breaker bar, it's going to save you a lot of effort. Rotors are going to be hesitant to come off because they've been sitting for so long, and as you can see, there's all kinds of corrosion and rust going on. So this is going to be adhered. That's basically where the mallet comes in handy. Just going to kind of knock on it till it comes free. The sucker's on there, good. There we go. Saw it pop off. That's because all of that was keeping it basically glued in place on there. So rotor's off. And basically what we want to do to prevent that from happening, we've got the thread lock, our anti-seize here, and we're just going to coat the inside all around with anti-seize so that rust doesn't formulate. All right, that's going to ensure that the next rotors don't stick again. Right, and before you get rid of your old rotor, it's a good idea to take your new rotor and just match it up. Make sure that they are the same size. The rear rotors and the front rotors are two different sizes, so you know, nobody would be surprised if a simple mistake happened. So just check before you do it, and then we'll be good to mount it. Before we finish installing, I am going to hit it with some degreaser solution just to clean off any factory coatings. Sometimes factories will put on stuff to make it look shiny and brand new, and we don't want any of that on there. So give it a quick wipe down with brake clean. And in case you're wondering, this is a sacrificial microfiber cloth. I will not be using this on my car. Alright, so if you're seeing the rotor wants to come off, it naturally wants to come off. So at this point, you can just take one of your lug nuts and hand tighten it down just to keep the rotor in place. Just like that. At this point, I'm going to cut free the caliper so that I can get the caliper reinstalled and then get the brake pads in. install the rotors, we have our pads, I'm sorry, to have our pads, we have some pad hardware right here, these little clips. And they pull just straight out. They should just pull straight out. You might need to get a flat head to fully free them. That side came out just okay. What's wrong with this side? All right, there we have it. It's the old hardware. Okay, there's another one right here. This one should be easier. Your new hardware is going to go in the same orientation, but one key thing that we want to do before we put these in there is we want to take more anti-seize and we want to line right in the inside track right there. That's where your brake pads are going to sit, so we definitely don't want any kind of rust formulating in any kind of moving parts. All right, with the anti-seize in there, we can now take it, slide it right in. Now they should clip right into the spot. They're just going to clip right in back in there. They're going to align with the notches right there. Once again, apply anti-seize. Go. Clicked right in. All right, so brand new brake pads, as you can see, no silver, quite a bit thicker than the last ones we just pulled off, and these go in nice and easy. You just take the flat edge, line it with the flat edge of your caliper there, and you put in the bottom end first, and you click the top end. Before we do that though, we're gonna apply anti-seize to the back of each brake pad. Do not put any anti-seize on the brake pad itself. There we go. It should set right inside of that notch and right inside of that notch right there. Now it's time to get the brake caliper reapplied. Yeah, and as I was saying, so I was speculative of this, why these bolts were becoming so hard to get off. This orange thread locker on there. There are multiple different thread lockers. I think there's purple, orange, yellow, and blue. Blue, as you can see, is a semi-permanent. You want to make sure you're using a semi-permanent thread locker on anything that you expect to have to remove and do maintenance on, like your calipers. That way you don't have to fight through, you know, the permanent thread locker in the future. All right, so next part is going to be really important. Remember, we did not fully secure those bolts on the back. We definitely have to make sure that those get torqued down to the appropriate amount of torque for those back caliper bolts. They are 90 pounds of torque. For these top ones here, 30 pounds of torque. Torque wrench right here. As you can see, we just twist the handle, line it up to the notch with a 90 right there. After you set the torque wrench to the proper torque, you're just going to use it like a normal wrench until it clicks. All right, once you hear that click, it is torqued all the way. Once you've got everything torqued back on, you can go ahead and remove that lug nut, and it's time to get the wheel back on. All right, everybody, so we are inside of the car, and now is time for the most important part after you install your brakes. Definitely don't want to go out and mob right away. Definitely check your brakes. Make sure that everything went proper, you know, because you don't want to find out in an emergency situation that something is awry. So first things first, while the car is parked, you want to push down the gas pedal. Now, you want to do it again. So the very first one, you're going to notice the brake pedal almost goes all the way to the floor. That's normal because remember what we did? We opened up the pistons all the way. So it's going to take a longer pressure for the pistons to close the brakes. So you just want to make sure after that to give it a few good pumps. Make sure that it doesn't feel you know, that they're not going to feel completely normal because they are new brakes, but you want to make sure that the pedal's not going all the way to the floor, no hesitation, anything. So once that is done, you want to, still don't want to drive fully. I'm in my neighborhood right now. I'm going to go around my neighborhood and I am going to test out the brakes, make sure everything's good, and then we're gonna go for a further trip so we can stop from some distances. But just right now in the beginning, first ride, definitely just want to go nice and easy. Don't take nothing too fast. Ooh. Yes, sir. And right away, you can definitely feel a big difference. Another thing you want to listen, you're going to listen for the brakes. Make sure they're not doing any squeaking. Once we get onto an open road, what we're going to do is we're going to get up to a cruising speed of 30 miles an hour, and then we're going to apply, we're not going to slam on the brakes, we're going to apply moderate pressure to the brakes and do that until come to a full stop, kind of like that. But I'm already feeling improved stopping power. They're actually pretty touchy right now, which is a good sign. but I'm not hearing any squeaking, no squealing, anything. So we are gonna go get me and my wife some drinks, put it to more of a rigorous test.